and welcome to another episode of the HLTB podcast. I'm your host, Paula, joined by the amazing Avatage, or Josh.
What's up, everybody?
And today we have a very interesting topic. So, spoiler alert, we're talking about spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
And like how we think about spoiler, how we avoid them, do we seek them out, all that good stuff. And also, we'll close the episode after our beaten, retired, and playing segments of the episode. We're also gonna play another round of Guess the Game. So, Josh, you are the only one who has beaten anything, so go ahead.
Yeah. I've beaten one game since we last spoke, and it was Halo Combat Evolved. Technically the Anniversary Edition, in case anyone's playing along, because I've been playing it as part of the Master Chief Collection that's on Game Pass. I think I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago in the first episode. I initially played it on Xbox, but didn't really get down with the controls using a gamepad. So I ended up picking it up on PC more recently, and I finished the game. And I don't have heaps to say about it, because it's kind of like, it's an old game that kind of shows its age. So I've moved on to the second one, which we talk about when we're talking about what we're playing. But the only reason I can think that I finished it was because it's Halo. And everyone knows Halo, and Halo is the biggest thing on Xbox. And yeah, if it wasn't Halo, then I probably wouldn't have finished it, because, to be honest, it was really slow. It felt like there's no even run option. You just kind of go at the same speed everywhere. The controls felt weird. The combat was kind of... There wasn't a lot of feedback for the player. I didn't feel like there was anyway. But I say all this with a caveat, like I don't want to just complain. It's just an old game, I think, and we've improved things since then. So that's why I think it didn't really hit for me, because I don't know, the limitations of it being a console game and being like the first big first-person shooter console game. I can see how it would have been fun in the day, but yeah, it wasn't. I'm glad I played it and saw what the whole deal was, but I wasn't. It's not something I'm really, really grateful I played, kind of thing. Like, it's more just for the sake of it, because it is such a famous game.
I would like the lack of feedback when you were playing the game. Like, what do you mean exactly?
So you know how it's very much I find it's very much like a shooter thing, where I mean like visual and audio kind of feedback on, if you fire a shotgun, something makes you feel like it's really powerful and heavy, and it's the sound design, it's the visual design of what happens on screen, and all that kind of stuff is stuff that's feeding back to the player about what you're doing and the impact of everything that's happening. Like yeah, if you fire a shotgun in Doom or something, there's the sound effect and there's what you're seeing on screen and everything, and you can quote unquote feel it a lot more than, say, a weapon in a game where you just point and push the button and something dies in front of you, but there's nothing else to really tell you that something's happening.
Yeah, I get you.
So in Halo, it was okay, but I think because of the age, it kind of lacked a bit of feedback on some of the weapons, where it just felt like you were just pew-pewing and not a lot's happening, kind of thing. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense.
Kind of like reminds me of I played a little bit of Valkyria Chronicles, and like the weapons in that game kind of feel different.
Yeah.
So like, and also like, since I'm playing it on Switch, like it also has like a slight rumble. So
yes.
You kind of feel how it packs a punch. Like it's completely different to control like such a slow moving tank, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And like you aim and you shoot and you see like the whole animation of how, even though it is slow, it is powerful. Versus using like the lighter units and the lighter weapons.
Yeah, totally. And that Rumble's a good one as well for that. But all those sorts of things that are kind of telling the player that something impactful is happening on the screen, kind of thing, or something you did caused an action. Yeah, so I often put it down to very much sound design and how weapons sound when they shoot. Like if it's just like a peh, you're like, oh, that's underwhelming. But if it's like a big boom, you're like, oh, well, hey, I've got some power here, like.
Yeah.
So yeah, I felt it was a bit underwhelming, and Halo in general was a bit underwhelming for me. However, I say all of that with the knowledge that this is an old game. It has dated a lot. Like, I know it's a bit of a meme now, but there's a vehicle called a Warthog, which everyone will know from the game, and it's like a Jeep thing, and it's very popular in multiplayer because you get a driver and you can have someone sitting in the passenger seat, and there's like a gunner position as well, so you can kind of squad up with your mates and go driving across the map and like shoot heaps of dudes and stuff. But to control the Warthog, there's no like accelerate or brake or anything like that. It's just push forward, and whichever way you're facing, it will turn to. So you basically have to turn your view to the left to make it turn left. And it also feels like it's running on ice. Like there's no friction at all.
Doesn't sound pleasant at all.
Well, consider that, and it's a bit of a meme. Like it's a bit of a joke how bad this is. Like I've seen memes online about, especially multiplayer, people doing weird things with the Warthog to make it do flips and move about in really strange ways. And yeah, it's a funny kind of, haha, this is so bad, but we have fun with it kind of thing. But think of that, but then put it as the very spoiler warning, by the way, if you are worried about the ending of, or part of the ending of Halo Combat Evolved from many, many years ago. There's like a gauntlet at the end where you're escaping something, and you have to get in a Warthog and drive along a very straight kind of path, but there's lots of jumps and things, and there's people shooting at you, and you're just trying to get away. But because the physics on the Warthog are so bad, and there's no like friction when you hit the ground or anything, it kind of is very floaty. The amount of times I'm like cruising down, it's this big epic moment, there's explosions going off everywhere, and I'm racing away in this Jeep, and I'm like jumping through the air and stuff, but then because of the weird physics, I end up flipping and landing on my roof, and that kind of spits you out. So then you have to press a button to like flip the thing back onto its wheels, jump back in, and then kind of get back to it. And that happened like 3 or 4 times throughout this epic sequence, which should have just been this big, smooth kind of big getaway kind of thing. So yeah, it kind of pulls you out of the what I think the story is trying to do by being kind of janky. So, but again, I cannot stress enough before people get annoyed at me. I appreciate this is an old game, and I'm used to very different kind of first-person shooters because this is obviously designed for console. Like the speed of it is a thing, just the speed of movement and everything, and that is very much a console thing because if you're playing with mouse and keyboard, you can look around and change direction and everything super quick because you can put up your mouse sensitivity or whatever and just like flip around in a millisecond. But on a console, you've got your sticks, so you kind of push to the left or right, and then you start turning and you wait until you're facing the right way, and then you stop pushing. So that movement in itself is just slower. So everything has to compensate for that as well. Like if you're trying to aim at something, you need more time to aim than if you've got a mouse and you can just kind of go boop. So the whole game as a whole kind of feels a lot slower. But like I say, I started playing Halo 2 and I'm interested to see where that goes. And it already kind of feels better and much more improved. The last thing I will say though on Halo is the Master Chief Collection version with the Anniversary Edition is probably the best way to play because it's basically a remaster. And they've done that cool thing where you're playing through the game with the new graphics and the new sounds and everything, but you just hit tab and it all switches to the original graphics and everything. So
that's cool.
You can kind of go into an area just hit tab and like see what it used to look like. And of course, it's very lo-fi, and the lighting is much worse, and the textures are less detailed and everything. And even the sound design is different and all that kind of stuff. And then you hit tab again, it all goes back to the new stuff. So that's a lot of fun, and I really like that kind of stuff. But yeah, that was Halo for me, basically. That's about it. But I did also retire a game this week, which was new. I haven't retired something for a while, but it's just a game called Monster Jam Steel Titans, which, if you don't know what it is, it's a monster truck racing game. And it consists of two types of competition. There's like races, as in, around laps around a circuit, or from point to point through the wilderness or whatever. But then there's also like stunt races where you've got like almost like a skate park, but you're in your monster truck. So you're doing flips and everything in your monster truck and trying to do combos and all this kind of stuff. It's all right. I just kind of got a bit bored with it, to be honest, and stopped playing it for a while. And I was looking at it today and thought, you know what? I'm not interested in going back to it. Yeah, it's a nice idea, but it felt a little undercooked overall. So yeah, I thought I'd retire it. But I don't really have much to say about it, actually, because it's basically a monster truck game. And it's pretty average. I mean, the Monster Jam series I think, has been around for a while. But I think there's newer ones which are better, so maybe I'll try them one day. But yeah, this one, that's it. But yeah, I noticed you also had a retirement, Paula.
Yeah, this is a rare Paula retirement, I think. And it is Pokemon Outages. So as much as I like the game, first of all, I am back into classes, so all my time I rather just spend playing something that has an ending. But also, I kind of got a little bit bored, mainly because it is weird because you're kind of like at the mercy of RNGs a little bit on how you build your teams, which it's kind of like not my cup of tea, mainly because I like having control over what I'm doing. And also I feel like the longer the match goes, the less probable is that you can turn it around.
Right.
Like since you are able to sell like the base evolution of the Pokemon line for the same price that you bought it. But once you combine three and get an evolution, the return rates seem to be like lower each time in a way. Like I spent, let's say, like 6 gold to get to the second evolution because each base evolution costs 2 gold. And then I can sell it for 4 gold once it is evolved. So in that way, since you have to have your team of Pokemon like kind of like decided since the midpoint of the game, trying to change strategies like when you're really like deep into a match is kind of like difficult and even a little bit impossible depending of the like of the types of Pokemon you have and the types you want to top to. So in that case, it's kind of like meh, because I like playing RTSs like Warcraft 3 and Age of Empires 4 and Age of Empires 2 and all that jazz. But the magic on those games is that if you know what you're doing, you can turn around a late game, like in the late game. You can turn it around and actually win a match. Like not everything is lost unless you're like really, really behind. You have nowhere to hide and the other player just manages to count you down like big time. But I've turned around like matches when everything seems lost, and that has like a very satisfying feeling to it, which I'm not getting out of Pokemon Outages. Also, since it doesn't have like the randomness of what you're gonna get, I also like feeling more in control and like memorizing like an early way to min-max my resources, depending on which race / civilization I'm playing. And like nailing down like every step of the way is something you cannot get here, like in Pokemon Messages. Like I guess there are players that have higher success rates because they not really know each synergy, and they know like which synergies are like stronger against which, and also like they know how to make the most of the Pokemon they're getting. But still, like that lack factor kills it for me. Absolutely. So yeah, that is my retirement for this week. Do you want to roll along with the playing?
Yeah. Why don't you keep going and talk about what you've been playing as well?
Okay. So I've been quote unquote, and these are big fucking quotes, been playing Pokemon Sleep. So the Pokemon company like launch an app that is designed to make you want to go to sleep and to sleep the amount of hours you should sleep. And then you get like a nicer present the next morning. So the story more or less goes like, hey, this is a professor that is studying like sleep patterns on Pokemon. And there are these islands or like zones that have like a big happy Snorlax sleeping on them. And this Snorlax kind of like attracts other Pokemon to it in the night, and they just sleep surrounding it. So the main mechanic of the game is that you have to go to sleep and have the app like active during the night, which is like the first problem because it really drains the battery during the night.
Yeah.
And I don't have like somewhere to plug my phone, like just like by my side when I sleep because of sleeping arrangements.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that it's kind of like it kind of like records, so like hears sounds that you're making when you're asleep. So in that way, it kind of like tries to guess if you're like in deep sleep or if you're not sleeping at all and stuff like that. Skipping the part where an app pretty much watching you sleep is a little bit creepy.
Yeah.
It also happens that I live with someone, and that someone has a different sleep schedule than I do because I'm an early bird and he's a night owl. So in that regard, all my recordings are like all my sleep data is messed up. That is problem number one. The other problem is that I either forget to set the app, and if you don't set the app, it doesn't register that you're sleeping. So you can manually input like the hours you were sleeping, but you don't get to meet like the new Pokemon that were sleeping with the Snorlax and stuff like that. Which is a shame because the game is actually like pretty cute in the sense of how you see like the personalities of all these different Pokemon like showing up
Right.
in a way that you wouldn't usually see in the main games or even like in some of the other spin-off. And like we saw a Marip like just sleeping with all like it's which is a kind of like a chip, a very fluffy chip. And it
Right.
was like sleeping with all its legs like dug into the wool. And the sleep pattern for that one was fluffy sleep, and that was adorable. And you can recruit these Pokemons to help you because not only you have to sleep and make the Snorlax sleep so everyone recovers their energy for the next day. You also have Pokemon helpers that help you feed the Snorlax. Like they collect berries and ingredients and you can make dishes to help your Snorlax grow nice and fat. And by it growing and being more powerful, it attracts even more Pokemon when you're asleep. So
Cool.
that feedback loop was kind of nice, but the thing is, it feels kind of like feeding your Snorlax and sleeping feels super disconnected. But still
Right.
it still is a bit of fun. I may or may not be retiring this next week, depending on how it works for me. Like the thing is I have ADHD, so having like that um reward like kind of lingering over my head makes me sleep less.
Yeah.
Because
It's
like
stressful.
I the other night I woke up like at 4 a.m. like, hey, I kind of want to know what's on my camera right now, but I have to sleep a little bit more. But I couldn't go back to sleep because I was like a little kid before Christmas. So wait, that's one way to shoot myself in the foot. But anyway, so that is Pokemon Sleep.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Would it work if you just snore all night and that's it? Because that
Um,
would be my experience.
I guess it does detect snore like you being asleep in a way.
Yeah.
The other thing that one thing that I haven't tried out because I don't usually listen to the recordings is that I'm a sleep talker. So
Oh, cool.
usually not only it detects it as I'm sleeping less because of my boyfriend playing like Valorant in on the side until like 2, 3 a.m., sorry. It also detects like I'm a light sleeper because I sleep talk. So
So it doesn't know what the hell's going on.
yeah, it's kind of confusing. So I usually have to what I usually do is okay, I'm gonna go to sleep, and when my boyfriend goes to sleep, I kind of like wake up because of all the stuff going around, like the lights turning on and off and shit like that.
Yeah.
So then I put on Pokemon Sleep, and then I go to sleep for real, like for the rest of the night. So yeah, that is Pokemon Sleep.
Interesting.
Like I feel like if you are by yourself sleeping, it's it works as intended.
Mm.
But in my case, it hasn't been working well. So I may or may not retire this next week, but I didn't want to have two retirements and sound too negative, so here we are.
Very good.
The other game that I've been playing, and this just a little bit of it, is BUSTAFELLOWS, which,
Hmm?
like I stated that in last week, I've been playing with my boyfriend, and he's really digging it because we actually have like this haste where one of the characters like just feign he's dead, like fake he's dead.
Right.
And the conversation around that topic, like from the characters themselves, was really funny, which I really, really appreciate in a game.
Hmm.
Um, and also, I'm at that point in the story where, well, everyone realized that Joda is probably like not crazy, and she has like she's somewhat trustworthy, so they give back her mobile phone. And immediately after that, she realizes something has gone down on her place. So at the start of the story, like her friends were trying to tag her into um, moving out of the apartment she was living in because the not only they were having like trouble and they had to like remodel the thing because it seems like the structure wasn't like all that good, but also the place was not just not good, it was falling apart. So
Cool.
the apartment complex like fell, like just crumbled like a cookie.
Oh, wow.
And she was like, okay, I have nowhere to go. And since, well, they still didn't fully trust her, it was like, hey, why don't you stay at our place, because we still need to keep an eye on you. And also you're out of a home. So it kind of like work out in that way. And also we meet Crow in that place, which is like the one character that was like the hacker that was like seeing like everything from the shadows, like watching everything from the shadows, and like giving them information based on what he saw. He's a total goofball, like 100%. And also one part that it still completely cracks me up is that he has what they call a respect jar. So you know how there are these sword jars? Like, hey, you sword, yeah, put a quarter on it. So each time, since it is his house and he writes the rules, each time you trash talk him, you have to put money in this respect jar. Which it is not working as intended, because instead of the other 4 plus Teuta not wanting to trash talk him, instead they make a deposit in advance to be able to trash talk him during the day, which is beautiful.
Nice. Yeah.
So I think I said, yeah, I talk about the group that we have right now. So we have the crooked lawyer Limbo, the not traffic hunter, the, I guess the quote unquote hunter, quote unquote assassin Shu, the mortuary I forget his name, oh my god, now Mozu. And we also have Helvetica, which is not only named after a font, he's also a plastic surgeon and quite good at disguising himself, especially as a woman. And also we have the boss of the underworld / hacker / unemployed clown Crow, and our lovely protagonist Toda. So I already know like where the story is gonna go because I already played this. My boyfriend does not though, so I'm very looking forward to what route he follows into, because I'm making him like do all the choices.
Yeah.
And that's about it, because I've only played like an extra hour of it, so I'm not gonna ramble anymore. And finally, we have the big one. Like, I've put in just a week over 30 hours into this game because I couldn't just put it down. And that is Radiant Tail. So I talked a little bit about it last week, but I didn't have any idea what I was getting into. So in short, the protagonist, Tifalia, is just a normal girl going through her ordinary life and just attending to the family business with her standing mom and her fluffy mascot, or her fluffy pet, quote unquote, which is actually a 5 beast. So he has a humanoid form, but more on that later. And the thing is that she meets like this dragon boy who is called Vilio, and he's like, hey, we're looking for a place to sleep, and we know you have rooms, so can you help me please look for the other 4 people in my group? And the descriptions for each of them is, okay, Safra is a guy with a very sharp tongue, Pascalia kind of like looks like water. And Ian looks very strong. And Genia, you'll know when you see him. That is the literal uh, descriptions of that Vilio gave to Tifali in that moment. But he wasn't wrong at all. So the characters in this game are, again, Saphora, who not only has a sharp tongue, he's the clown of the circus. But he's also an information broker. So he travels around the world like buying, getting information and selling it to other people because reasons. Yep. Then you have Pascalia, who not only looks like water, he is actually a water spirit contractor. So in this world, you can make contract with spirits, and the stronger the spirit is, the more your overall body changes. So in this case, he's contracted with a water spirit, and like his hair literally looks like flowing water, which I find that very cool because making that, first of all, making that artistic decision was crazy, but also the way they pull it off was amazing. So chef kiss for that. And Ian, he is allegedly a former security force officer. And he's indeed a very strong man, and he usually has this stern look all the time, so people are scared of him. And you have Genia, and he's like a nobleman that is very, very eccentric, and in every sense of the word, from appearance to personality. More on that later. The aim of this very misshaped group, I guess, is to go around this land of Scoltia, yeah, and try to make these circus shows and try to make people happy to make a special kind of flower bloom. Because this flower has very special capabilities and is a strong source of mana. They do this because the prince of the kingdom for 10 years has been like frozen in time, and also not only his body hasn't grown an inch and changed at all, but his hair is kind of frozen, so he kind of like exists like a motionless doll. So they're trying their best. They were actually assembled by the king himself to make these flowers bloom and try to make the prince like more human again. Why do they do this though? Okay, not only there's this thing going on, but in each major city, that each of the cities are bound to an element. So we have the city of Earth, Calida, city of the Wind, Cultura, city of Water, and also city of Love and Arts, Orion, and Ferus, the city of Fire. Each of them has a problem going on, and you kind of like go around trying to not completely solve them because they're like very big problems that you really can't solve them without like applying major force or like doing something. But at the very least, they kind of want to, they are trying to generate like consciousness around this problem while also doing the show, while also blooming these flowers. And why are they doing this? Because there's another similar flower to the one they're trying to bloom. They're like smaller flowers that just, when someone is happy, they bloom. And they keep out these creatures called fiends. And fiends not only feed off the negative energy of people, they can also possess them. And they've caused trouble like in other minor cities to the point they're completely destroyed. So for example, Kalira, the city of Earth, is also the city of research. So all the researchers work there to the point that they not only ignore their well-being, like their own well-being. They started to conduce very not good, not ethical experiments on the Fae there. To the point they have to go out of the way to rescue the Fae, and they actually made a show out of with the Fae in tow. The second city, Cultura, I think is the most fucked up. Okay, the second most fucked up. Because for the last 3 years, they have this governor who is called a sentinel that has ruled them with an iron fist, and they, even though they're known as the city of bones, and almost like this city where everyone knows each other, and like they like being around other people, but now they are on lockdown because of a chain of incidents that have been going around that has to do with things. And also there's this thing called the give me a second here. I know I have the answer over here. Fuck it. Like pretty much people are committing crimes and they don't remember. The lunatic riots, yeah. Like something overtakes them and they do bad stuff, and then it's like, hey, what the hell happened? Then in the city of Love, Orion, they have this problem where people started ignoring the people around them and are just self-centered. So, especially like the spirits, like the water spirits are supposed to be the ones that really love humans, and they do anything in their power to make them happy. People don't usually are able to see spirits unless you're a contractor or a kid. So in this case, like they were polluting the water, they were putting like these huge showy confessions and like breaking up the next day because I don't know, something happened. That overall like make this city like feel very shallow in a way, which is funny because it's centered around water, so shallow water. And then you have first the city of fire, where strength is the only thing that matters. If you're weak, if you lose in a fight or just in a coin flip, you're the one in the wrong. So you have it is ruled by either people that are very strong physically or that has a lot of money that can contract those people to fight for them. And yeah, so they put up a show, try to solve or like try to bring consciousness to these issues on each of the 4 cities, and then go back to the capital and do one big last show. The story doesn't end there though. That is just the common route of the game. Because on each of the character routes you have some extra oomph to spice things up. And so each of the main characters are also related to one of the cities in a way. So for each character, like they kind of like go around solving things like more in depth into a city and like trying to see their, I guess you explore their individual past, how who they really are, and also try to since each one is connected to one of these places, you see more in depth how fucked up things really are and try to solve them. And then you have the I'm gonna call it the final route, but I think there's another like common route after this, but I'm not too sure, so don't quote me on that. And then you have Vilio's route, which kind of like joins everything together, because he's somewhat I'm trying not to spoil the thing, but he's somewhat like tied to the country itself. Like there's something about him that has him going has him going into this mission, and he needs to like visit every place.
Right.
And right now I'm on chapter 10 out of 10 on his route, so I really am very close to finishing this game. I have to say, it has really blown me away because the only thing that I knew going in is that, hey, there's a circus, I think. And also I knew that the writers for this game are the same for Code Realize, which is one of my other favorite Otome games. So I was like, hey, way to go. I want to go see this one. But I wasn't
Yeah, awesome.
really expecting it to hit so hard in the way it did, especially Two of the Roads, which may or may not become relevant in a later topic in another episode, but more on that in another episode. But the main thing is that I really love each and every route, which isn't common at all in when I play these games. So I'm pretty happy with this. And not only that, I am debating on whether or not just play the fan disc in Japanese, because the fan disc, or the sequel, is coming out in Japan on the 31st. And I have a Japanese Nintendo account, so I could, in theory, buy the game. And I could use Google Translate to fumble my way over the game, because I really just want more. Like, this is one of those Otome games that I feel like if you're even mildly interested on the genre, or if you're not like a big Otome fan, you just play the ones that everyone says are good. This one is one of those. So yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Managed to not go out in a rant for like 2 or 3 hours, so I call that a success. So Josh, what have you been playing?
Yeah, no, it's great that it's turned out so well, though, and yeah, I have continued to play. Did I mention this last week? Warhammer End Times. Had I started it then? I can't remember.
I think you did.
I've been playing Warhammer End Times Vermintide.
I think you weren't playing this one.
I'll because there's Vermintide. There's now Vermintide 2. And I picked up them both in bundles somewhere. So I decided, hey, I'll try the first one first. And I like Warhammer stuff. So yeah. And it's really good. It's basically a Left 4 Dead kind of clone, but it's Warhammer. So it's a 4-person party made up of co-op partners or AI bots. I'm playing with bots because I'm playing solo, so there are some limitations with that. But it's first person, and depending on which character you choose, depends on kind of how your playstyle occurs, I guess. Because there's the dwarf who's got a big hammer, so he bashes things. There's like a elven rogue with an arrow, bow and arrow kind of thing. There's a sorceress who like casts flame spells and things. I've been playing as the witch hunter, who has a Zweihander big double-handed sword and some pistols. So, or actually now I've got a crossbow because I managed to upgrade it. And so yeah, it's basically a very level-based game. You basically start at one end of a level and you have to get to the end. And in between you and the end are a whole bunch of Skaven, who are the Warhammer rat enemies. So they're basically a whole bunch of different types of rats. There's regular rats that you literally go through like hundreds of them every level. But then it's very Left 4 Dead style. If anyone has played Left 4 Dead or are familiar with that sort of gameplay, I haven't played Left 4 Dead, but I'm familiar with it. So there's like these really, really big rats who hit really hard and take a lot of hits to kill. There's really, really quick rats who will jump on you and start stabbing you and kind of knock you out, kind of thing. There's another one who'll like grab you and drag you away from all the action and basically take you away from the rest of the party until it gets killed and you release your friend who's been dragged away. And I think those classes are very similar to other games like Left 4 Dead and that sort of thing. And like there's a rat who throws poison gas grenades at you, and if you shoot him, he explodes into a big poison gas cloud that you need to avoid. So yeah, it's very standard stuff for that kind of game, I think. Playing solo comes with its challenges. You're basically, even though you've got some bots with you, you're basically playing on your own. And all the important stuff you have to do on your own. So they're good as in they distract enemies every now and then, but you end up killing most of everyone. Like at the end of each level, you get like a tally of who got the most kills and who did the most damage. And I'm the one who, I top every single stat, no matter what, every single level, because the bots just can't keep up. But that's okay. It's functional enough to play on your own, but it's very much designed for a co-op experience, so I forgive it for that. But even as an old game, it still looks really good because it's got this whole it's Warhammer End Times, and as opposed to Space Marines, for those who know that kind of Warhammer, like Warhammer 40k, Warhammer End Times is way more like gothic kind of Bloodborne kind of style architecture and old weapons like crossbows and swords and things, as opposed to big guns and that kind of stuff. And you're not wearing like big power armor and things. You just, like, my dude has a pilgrim hat and a big long trench coat, and yeah, it's a very different kind of scene than say Warhammer 40k. But it's a lot of fun. It's got a lot of style. I'm looking forward to finishing it off. I don't know if it'll be up there with the greatest games I've ever played, but I could definitely see it being really fun in co-op. So I'm hoping maybe when I get to Vermintide 2, because it's a bit newer, I might be able to coerce some people into playing it with me. But otherwise, I'll probably play it anyway. And there's actually a newer one out, I think, called Dark Tide, which is a 40k version of the same thing. Or Dark Tides, or something like that. It came out this year, I think. But it's a 40k version of the same kind of 4-player co-op system. So I'd be keen to check that out as well. But yeah, I've been playing that, and it's a lot of fun. It's a good one to try, but not something I'd rush out and go for if you don't already have it, or you don't already have an interest in Warhammer. But as we all know, there's a million Warhammer games out there anyway, so this is a good one. It's not one of the crap ones.
Does the game play a little bit like the tabletop Warhammers, like by turns or something like that?
Oh no, it's very it's basically a first-person shooter. So, and as you go through each level, you kind of fight your way through enemies, but then at certain periods of time, there'll be waves of enemies. So it's basically get ready because you're about to have hundreds of them running at you. It's more like a zombie survival game. Like, that's why I think of Left 4 Dead.
That was the one I was thinking about.
Yeah. So it's very much like a horde-based kind of thing. And with that in mind, there's one level which I just did the other day, which I had to repeat a few times, purely because I wasn't playing in co-op. So there's one point in this one level where you basically have to defend 4 points in a big room. So there's there's a wizard basically who's channeling a spell, and there's 4 totems or something that are part of that spell. And because there's 4 of you, you're meant to defend each one from attackers, from rats who come in and attack you. But because there's no like party control system, so in a lot of games where you end up with bots as your party, you can tell them like, oh, go over there, defend that area, attack that person, that kind of stuff. There's none of that in this game. I don't know if it's just the age or the style of game. So basically they all just hang around you. So of these 4 points, I tried defending them all initially, but it was just impossible because you're constantly running between them. And I had to look it up on YouTube, and I realized, okay, you can lose 3 other points, and you just have to save one of them. So as a single player, I just kind of stayed on one and let the others die, and yeah, just kind of defended that 1 point. So it's not ideal for a single player, but it's also it's kind of nice that you can play it single player because it is designed for co-op. So fair enough, ups and downs. I don't expect it to be a perfect single player experience, but it's a lot of fun though. Either way, it really feeds into that chopping through hundreds and hundreds of enemies, almost like Dynasty Warrior style, but not to that extreme. It's good times.
Good times.
I've also been continuing to play Baldur's Gate 3 in co-op with my friends, as I talked about last week. I'm kind of getting a bit annoyed with it, if I'm honest. So I think we're about 25 hours in now or something, and we were 10 or 12 last time I talked about it. So I've spent twice as much time in the game now. And there are so many glitches and bugs and things that go wrong that it kind of gets really annoying. And as the 3 of us playing together, we've kind of learned to constantly just save after we do everything, just in case something messes up. Because there's bugs down to like, well, I was playing once, and when you hover over items and things, it usually gives you like a tooltip to explain what it is you're looking at and what it does and who can use it and that kind of thing. I didn't have any tooltips for some reason, so I had to restart the game. My friend who is hosting the game and playing, is the host of the party. About 3 or 4 times now, he's been unable to get to the menu of the game. Like if he presses escape or clicks on the little hamburger menu on the UI, he just can't bring it up. Nothing happens. So he's had to restart the game to make it work again. There have been cutscenes which just kind of start and end within a second, and you can tell they're just cut off because nothing really happens. There are times when you're talking to an NPC and they'll just stop talking and look at you, and like 2 minutes will go by of them just looking at you, and you don't have any options to exit or say anything or anything. And then the game will catch up and it'll just move on.
Oh no.
So it's very, very glitchy. Thankfully, nothing that has totally destroyed the game for us. So there's that. But at the same time, we're making sure we save a lot just in case something does happen.
Yeah.
Because, with that kind of game, it can take hours just to get back to where you were 2 hours ago or something like, it can be quite convoluted. But having said that, I'm still enjoying myself because I'm hanging out with my friends, so how can you not? And it also inspired me to, I only just picked it up again today, but it inspired me to pick up Divinity Original Sin 2 again, which I had retired a long time ago, because I just wanted the same experience, but single player. Like I talked about last week with Baldur's Gate, how you miss out on some conversations and that kind of thing, and bits of the story can easily be missed because, my friend will go off and chase that while I don't even know he's doing it. And we're actually playing today before recording this podcast. And there was a whole story section that I missed just because I didn't realize that they were talking to someone, and, no one told me either. So, it's kind of fun like that. But hey, that's fine.
With that kind of friends, with that kind of party, do you need enemies?
Well, the other thing that really frustrated me today, actually, and I was considering changing my class, because one thing you can do in the game is reroll your entire character at any time. You just have to pay like 100 gold, I think, and there's an NPC you can just respec your entire class. I think you can even change your race and you can just remake your character. And I'm playing a fighter, so I'm very much big sword, melee, big hits kind of character, and useless at range. While my friends are playing a cleric and a druid who are pretty much all ranged and have big AoE spells and stuff that basically shut me out. Like we had a fight today against a big horde of goblins, and I was just hitting end turn every turn because there was nothing I could do. Because essentially, the druid had cast a AoE. I forget what it's called, but it's basically it makes thorns grow out of the ground, and
so you couldn't get to the enemies, right?
So it blocked the entrance to get to them, and as the enemies ran across the thorns, they died because they weren't that healthy anyway. So it was cool. We were winning, but as far as giving me something to do, I'm just standing on the other side behind a wall so no one shoots me, and just hitting end turn because there's nothing I can do to help out really. And so I was just thinking to myself, man, this is stupid. But that's as much the game's fault as it is my fault for the way our party's made up, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I was thinking maybe I should respec and change my class and do something that's not quite so melee focused.
Yeah.
But then the next fight we got into, I was right up in everyone's face and I killed like everybody because they rushed me and I was surrounded by dudes, which is like where my character shines. And I was just like cleaving them and knocking them out, and so it depends on circumstances really. But at the end of the day, as I said last week, with playing co-op, it's very much think of it as having fun with your friends instead of experiencing everything the game has to offer, because you're going to miss stuff no matter what, and it'll be a different experience to playing it solo. Like if you want to see everything, read everything, hear every conversation, romance every option, all that kind of stuff, then play it solo because you'll be able to control everything and anything. So yeah, it's still fun though, and I look forward to getting further in the game and continuing to level up and all that kind of thing. Because it's at the end of the day, it's still D&D, so D&D's fun.
You said romance every option, yeah, I remember seeing like on Twitter that everyone in the anime community was like head of heels a certain character, but that certain character seems to be reacting everyone or something like
that. Yeah, so there are NPCs that you meet along your journey who become optional party members. Mm-hmm. So if you're playing solo, you'd end up with 3 of them in your party to fill out the rest of your party. But because there's 3 of us already, we have 1 of them at a time to make up the 4. But all the rest go back to your camp and basically just hang out there waiting for whatever. And they each have their own personal quest interests and quest lines and that kind of thing. And depending on how much time you spend with each one and how much you do things that they approve of, because they disapprove of certain actions and that kind of thing, they will like you or dislike you. And you have the option to essentially, pursue romance options with each one if you so choose to do so.
That explains why Atomic Twitter was like all over Baldur's Gate, even though it is not usually their cup of tea.
Yeah. And there's some interesting characters too. Like I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't played, but getting to know the characters who join your camp is actually quite fun because they're all different classes and they're all different races and they've all got different stories, and some of them are quite amusing and interesting, while others are, a bit different, but they're definitely worth kind of talking to and getting to know. So it's definitely a fun part of the game. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. We're kind of up to, I think in the story, we're up to a relatively important part where we're about to kind of maybe transition onto the next act or something. I'm not sure, but I feel like something big is about to happen. So We'll see. It's still lots of fun though. But yeah, other than that, I started playing Halo 2, like I mentioned. Again, it's the Master Chief Collection version of the game. I'm only probably like an hour or so into it, and already it's better than the first one, so I'm excited about that because they've updated a few of the mechanics and systems a bit to basically just make life better. And it feels a bit more quote-unquote modern, as in the speed and the flow of the game and that kind of thing.
Can you actually run? Like, do you have 2 speed settings?
I don't know. I can't remember. I'd have to try it. But they've been. Trust me, when I was playing the first one, the amount of times I was hitting shift to try and run quickly, and it just did nothing. I was like, oh, that's right, I remember now. So yeah, I'll pay attention to that next time I play Halo 2 though, because I'm not sure if they've added it or not. But yeah, it's still Halo though, so I don't know. I've only just started it, so I don't really have much to say about it. But I do have something to say about the final game I have been playing, which again I had just started playing, was It Takes Two, which I think a lot of people probably heard of because it's a co-op game that won lots of awards, I think last year or the year before, maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was very popular. Like everyone on the podcast, on the prior podcast, played it with their either with a friend or a significant other. And I can say it
Yeah.
is a really, really good game, and I love it for that.
Okay, well.
Oh no, here comes the contrarian.
So I started playing this with my sister because she recently got into gaming just in general. And so we've been looking for games we can play together and, you know, that are easy enough for her to get into. And I say that nicely because she's just never played games before and has only just recently got into it in the last 6 months. So she's still at that very beginner level where she's still getting used to the controller and, you know, she still needs a tutorial for every game because she doesn't assume things that the rest of us assume. It's actually really interesting seeing how she's getting along with certain games because some of the barriers that she comes up against are things that we just take for granted. And, you know, like I know in every game that on a keyboard space is probably jump, X on a DS4 or DS5 is probably jump, A on Xbox controllers probably jump. I don't know Nintendo because that's a blind spot for me. But anyway. But yeah, those sorts of things where you just have those expectations, or even stuff like she's been playing a couple of games on story mode. So it's basically you can't die, you just kind of cruise through the story. And one of the games that she's really gotten into was Horizon Zero Dawn. And so she's played the first one, she played Zero Dawn, and now she's been playing Forbidden West. And one of the things in that game, which I was hanging out with her a few weeks ago, and she was trying to get through some level but kept getting lost and everything. And I said to her, just follow the lights. That's probably the right way to go. And she's like, what are you talking about? That's silly. I'm like, no, trust me, just follow the lights. So she did, and sure enough, that was the way she had to go. Like the lit up area of the map was the part she had to aim for.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, yeah, that's something that I'm used to as a gamer. Like, often developers will highlight something quite literally to show you this is where you need to go.
Yeah.
But unless you actually get explicitly told that, like my sister didn't know that was part of the language kind of thing. So, yeah, anyway.
Yeah, or like how my boyfriend was playing, I think Dark Souls 3 at some point.
Yep.
And he said, hey, this looks like the correct path to take. But there's another path, so I'm probably gonna go try to find whatever collectible is there.
Yeah, exactly. And so yeah. So to come back to It Takes Two though, it's the kind of game which, to its credit, we've been able to play very well together. And she doesn't feel like she's useless or anything as a new kind of casual beginner gamer against me, who's just way more experienced and, you know, can figure things out a lot quicker and that sort of stuff because I understand just the common language that games use. However, the story is what basically was the sticking point for both of us. Because we don't really like the main characters at all. Like the parents that you're playing. And I don't know if that's a popular opinion or not, but I'm guessing it's not. Because they're just kind of assholes, really.
I mean, yeah, like you are totally right. Like at the very start of the game, and there was a point where I was thinking, not only they are assholes, we're playing the bad guy here. Like
Yeah.
the way they acted, like, or the way they thought.
Well,
makes you feel bad.
and maybe I'm just an old man as well, but I think, yeah, no wonder you're, because spoiler warning as well. This is relatively new, so fair enough if you don't want to hear anything about it, skip ahead. But I'm just going to mention the very premise of the game, so that's it. But basically, you play as these parents who are going to get divorced, and the story basically brings them together and makes them, I don't know, I haven't finished it, but basically makes them get along together and have to work together to get out of their predicament.
Mm-hmm.
So fair enough, they're these two adults who aren't getting along very well. They're getting divorced anyway, so they've got issues. But the way they talk to each other and the way they treat other characters in the game and all this sort of stuff, my sister and I both, there were many times we just kind of looked at each other and went, man, what a bunch of jerks. Like, just these people are
they
just
don't like each other.
bad people. Like, they're just assholes to each other. They shoot each other down all the time. They, and I get that that's part of the storytelling. Like, they're doing that less and less. Like, we've got far enough in that they've complimented each other now for the first time, and all this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So fair enough. That's part of the storytelling. But yeah, there are some things which I don't want to talk about because it is big spoiler. But there are just moments where you're like, they're really hypocritical as well. Like, they're manipulative and they use other characters for their own benefit and then just kind of toss them aside because I don't give a fuck about you anymore. And it's just really jarring in a way. But yeah, other than that, it is a fun co-op game. We are enjoying ourselves. And it's very creative. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where it will go. We've played about 3.5 hours, I think. So I know there's still a fair bit left to go. So maybe we'll end up liking them in the end if they come good. I don't know. But yeah.
I think I was leaning more towards liking one of the characters more than the other.
Yeah.
But yeah, they weren't my favorite at first. I didn't hate them, but they were like, hey, these are like, yeah, they are jerks.
Yeah. I'm just like, these are trash people. No wonder they're having a bad time. Like, anyway, it is a fun game. I'm not sure I understand all the awards yet, but I appreciate that something might happen later on.
I do like the talking book. I forget the name of the book, but
yeah,
it is fun. Whenever the book comes around, it is just fun times.
Yeah, it's good, silly kind of comic relief. So yeah, that's I don't know when we'll get to play it again because, like I said, I'm playing it with my sister. So whenever we have time and can catch up and play some more, we will. But that could be a while. So yeah, but it's one of those games that, I mean, you have to play it co-op. So I'm glad that I get to play it anyway with someone. And I'm interested to see where it goes, and hopefully it will come good. But we'll have to see. Time will tell.
And with that, why don't we roll along to our discussion topic, that is spoiler time.
Mm-hmm.
So as we said previously on the intro of this episode, we're talking about spoilers. Not like spoilers, but the act of being spoiling the story / gameplay or whatever of the game. So what are our limits when hearing about games as a player? Like, when do we consider something a spoiler? Or how willing are we to listen to those spoilers?
Yeah, and this is something as well that we'd like to hear everyone else's opinion on as well. So please comment wherever you wish to let us know what you're thinking as well. Because I find that everyone has different ideas about what is a spoiler and what isn't a spoiler, or what matters to them and what doesn't. Because for me, I try to be as blind as possible when I go into a game. Like, I want to know enough to get me interested, and then I don't want to know anything else. And that could be something as simple as it's made by a studio that I like. Cool, I'll check it out, and I don't want to know anything else. or it's a sequel to a game that I like. Cool, I don't want to know anything else. But oftentimes with newer stuff, it'll be seeing a trailer or a bit of footage or something to just see what it looks like and how it plays. And then once I've had that much information, that's enough for me. I don't want to know what the story's about. I don't want to know what abilities you get later or anything like that. I just want to jump in and find out for myself. But I think, Paula, you're kind of similar, but what do you reckon?
Yeah, and in that sense, I've jumped into a game, especially like on Otome games. The second Otome game that I jumped into that was called Realize. I played it only knowing the title of it and seeing the cover, and it was like, hey, I remember playing this other Otome game a while back ago, which Amnesia Memories is like the first one I ever played. So now that I have a Vita, why not give it a try? Or like
Yeah.
with Shin Megami Tensei 4, which is a turn-based RPG by Atlas. I literally just saw the cover art, said, hey, I never hear about this, but there's something about the cover art that calls me. I didn't know anything about the game, and I just wanted to play it. So I'm a little bit extreme in some cases. Like when they announced like the sequel for Breath of the Wild, I knew for a fact that I wanted to play that. I still watched the trailers because I still wanted to know a little bit more before jumping into the game.
Mm-hmm.
But in some cases, I'm like, okay, it is a tactical game from a series I like. That's enough for me to get the game and give it a try. Or hey, there is something interesting in Game Pass. Since I pay Game Pass anyways, I can just sample a game with like knowing absolutely nothing and not having to suffer the consequences of my actions later.
Absolutely.
Mainly money. So yeah, I'm more cautious, I guess, now that I'm older because I play like so many games that at some point you start like getting either you've been burned too many times in the sense of oh my god, your camera just did something weird.
I just glitched out a lot in case for listeners. Yeah.
It doesn't help that you have like a very sci-fi kind of like background, so it's like I don't know, Cyberpunk took a hold of you or something like that. Um. So yeah, that's the thing I like to do. I like to go like with as little information as I can. Sometimes completely fucking blind, which is usually how I go around with Otome games. Because I already know, like, I like the structure of it. I just want to see how they're gonna twist the story or like the characters or whatever next time.
Well, and I think story comes into that a lot as well, doesn't it? Because for me, I don't mind so much knowing about mechanics or you know, this is the biggest open world game ever made or something. Like, I don't mind about that so much, but knowing the story and not being able to discover that for myself, I always find is a bit of a bummer if I find out something that is key to the whole thing. Like I remember I was listening to a podcast not long after Horizon Zero Dawn came out, and someone spoiled like a big part of that game for me, and it was probably the only time I've literally like grabbed my headphones and just thrown them on my desk so I didn't have to hear anything else. And I was really annoyed because they didn't even mention it or anything. They just kind of blurted this thing out. And I was like, fair
I
enough.
know the feeling.
But that
Like,
kind of goes into what we were going to talk about as well, like of the other side to that, where we're obviously trying to talk about games on this podcast. So it's very hard not to say something about the games we've been playing and talk about things that perhaps I myself would even think of as spoilers because I don't want to know anything. But yeah, we've got to try and think about kind of balancing that out as well. and which is kind of hard to do.
Yeah. When you know the other person has played the game or is playing the game, like trying to, in your case, it takes two. So trying to poke around to see like what the other person is doing, but the other person not wanting to give any spoilers themselves is like for trying to play this game of, I don't know, mime or anything or something like that. On the other hand, like you can see how excited I'm about a game. It will, because the more spoilers I give, the more likely is that I think that you're not gonna play the game. In that case was Parenting Paradox, where I was like, hey, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna talk about the game. Mainly because there are a lot of people that don't want to play the game because of certain topics on the game or because it isn't like the creme of la creme in otome games.
Yeah.
And it has sold a lot less than other otome games. So it's like, you know what? If I talk about the plot a little bit, or a much bit, people are gonna get interested in it, or like at the very least, it's gonna be like, hey, that is actually cool, or like that actually sucks. So the more information out there is the better. On the other hand, it is very, very difficult for me to not talk about Red Intel because I want to gush about all the day, every day about of how good it is. But because I know a lot more people are gonna play it because it is more popular in my niche, I don't want to spoil it. Like I really don't want to spoil it, but still want to talk about the game because listeners want to have something about, like something to listen to. So it's very difficult.
Well, and with that as well, like that's where I think the definition of kind of saying, at least for me, like I want to know enough to get me interested. That can mean very little, or it can mean quite a lot.
Yeah.
Because hearing you talk about these automated games and stuff, I'm way more interested than I am not hearing you talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you do tell me more about the story and characters and that sort of thing, because it's not a genre that I dive into a lot, hearing you talk about them and get excited about the stories and that sort of thing really does actually get me more interested. So in that way, it's a good thing because otherwise I probably wouldn't even think about it. Yeah.
You hear it here first, folks. The Otome evangelization is actually working.
Yeah, next week Josh has been playing Radiant Toe.
Okay, no, but it would actually be funny or like interesting to say the least.
Maybe one day. I think I've played some before. Like I've played I can't remember, but I know I've definitely played some before. I don't know if they're any good or not, but yeah, that's beside the point. But I think one of the things that because part of the reason we wanted to talk about spoilers anyway between us was we were talking about how much do we talk about on the podcast anyway? Because obviously we want to be respectful to anyone listening and not spoil things for them. But at the same time, we're talking about games, so it's kind of hard to avoid not saying anything.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever we do talk about games, I think I can speak for Paula as well, saying that we try not to spoil things or not to spoil anything too big or meaningful. Try to stick to the basic stuff that you could probably find anywhere online or in a trailer or something like that. But there's always probably going to be something. It's kind of like I don't really look at the Game Journeys channel on the HLTB Discord. Not because I don't want to talk about games with everyone on there, but there have been occasions where I look on there and someone's talking about a game and it's nothing spoilery, it's just something that's more information than I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
So I just kind of avoid that channel because, you know, just in case something pops up and I'm like, oh man, I wish I'd found that out for myself, you know?
Definitely. Like, that's another reason why I'm like very fucking big when I'm posting like on my blog on the How Long to Beat podcast. I mean, the How Long to Beat website. Because the point of the vlog is to say, hey, I completed a nice game, or like, or like, oh my god, my backlog is growing, or whatever. And it's not
Yeah.
like the games aren't like the whole point of it. It's like the journey of completing the games. But I know a lot of people like to make like very big reviews of them, sometimes with spoilers. So I try to keep away from them, even though I really want to see what the others are doing.
Well, I think it even comes down to like watching YouTube or Twitch games. I have a bunch of channels I'm subscribed to on YouTube and a bunch of people I follow on Twitch and that sort of thing. But if they're playing a game that I haven't played that I know I want to play, I won't watch them because I don't want to see it. So most of the time I end up watching people who are playing stuff that either I'm never going to play, so I don't mind if it's spoiled, or I've already played, so I know what's happening anyway. And because a lot of Twitch streamers especially always play like the newest, hottest thing, it's kind of annoying because it's like, well, I'm not going to watch you ever then, even though I like you. But you're always playing the newest thing, and I don't want to see the whole game before I've been able to play it. So, no thanks. I'll watch someone else who's playing some old retro game or something.
Like in my case, I watch a streamer that he works for Axis Games. So he streams like on their channel, like a little bit of the latest Otome game they're releasing. But then he goes into his own
Nice.
channel and finishes streaming the thing. And at that, so I usually don't watch the Axis stream because I always get the game like 2 weeks after, because thank you, Amazon, but I mean, thank you, Amazon, because you give me the chance to play the game and have it physical. But also, thank you, Amazon, because I don't have like I mean, 1 day shipping or on this side of the world. I have to wait for 2 weeks. So I
Yeah, it's
usually,
pretty much the same here.
yeah. So I usually don't watch the Axis game streams because it's the newest game and I don't even have it in my hands. But whenever Sammy Fish starts streaming it onto his channel, at that point I just finished one route, and that's enough for me to start watching him from the beginning and then jump into his channel and see the rest of the game.
Yeah. Well, and I think story heavy stuff as well is, as I talk about it now, I think that's the key difference for me, because there's a development company called Introversion Software, who are just an indie game developer. They made a game called Prison Architect, which went really well.
Yeah, I got it.
And they've made Multi-Winia and Darwinia back in the day. They made my favorite multiplayer game ever, which is called DEFCON. But they do a very open kind of development schedule. And for Prison Architect, they crowdfunded it, I think, because I backed them as well on Kickstarter. And then all throughout the development, every month they basically posted videos on YouTube showing what they'd made and how they were going and that kind of thing. But their games are very systems and mechanics heavy and basically don't have a story. Like Prison Architect is very much a sandbox game where you make your own story, and it doesn't matter how much you know. That kind of helps because you understand the systems and you know how the game works. But you don't have anything spoiled as far as what's going to happen because your experience is going to be different to anyone else's, kind of thing. So in that sense, I watched all the development videos for them, and because I was a backer, I had an early copy of it as well. So you got access to it from the very first alpha, and so it developed along a few years or so, and they kept adding a lot to it. So, and that was one that I basically was spoiled on everything the whole time, but it didn't bother me because it was all just had nothing to do with any kind of story. It was all just, hey, this is the thing we added this week. Like now there's kitchens and you've got to hire chefs or whatever.
Yeah,
and this is how it works.
For example, like how about early access games? Like when you have the access to probably like the mechanics or the early story, but you don't have access to
Yeah.
like the whole story or like every single thing. Like in my case, I had Slime Rancher from early access. I played
Yeah.
a lot of it on early access, but then you get to see the differences when it's no longer early access. But at the same time, I kind of wish I didn't play the early access
Mm.
because the game feels both old and new in a way, and it is kind of weird.
Yeah, early access games for me are weird as well because if I kind of finish it or quote unquote finish it or do everything I can do before it gets to its full release, I kind of stop playing and I don't pick it up again.
Yeah.
And like Subnautica is a good one for that. That's why I've never finished Subnautica, because I started playing it when it was in early access, and to the point where like the collectibles in the game were just grey boxes in the game, like they hadn't even been modeled or anything. So you're just kind of swimming around picking up a grey box and it says, "Oh, you just got some technology," and then you go pick up another grey box and it says you got some different technology.
Well, so that's early access.
Yeah. It was still fun though, and it was still cool. But and most of the systems and the story and everything were in there. But I kind of got as far as I could in early access, and we were waiting for the rest to be obviously finished, which is fine because that's early access. But then I took ages to pick it up again and to decide that actually I do want to go back in and finish it because it's a really good game. But yeah, it's kind of a difficult one to get back into because I feel like I've already kind of finished it, even though I definitely haven't. But because I did as much as I could at the time, it's like, well, there's nothing more for me to do, so I'm done. I'm going to go play something else now. So it's kind of a weird thing, early access as well, because yeah, it's kind of strange to be playing something as it gets developed. But that's probably a conversation for a whole nother time anyway. But
Yeah, we should make an episode on early access now that I think about it.
yeah.
You could say this is the early access to that episode. Okay, no, I'm gonna shut up right now.
I like what you did there. Yeah, I think as far as spoilers go, like I guess part of us discussing this as well is to kind of let listeners know that we'll always try not to spoil things if we can help it, or at least at the very least highlight it and say, hey, I'm going to mention some spoilers here before we talk about something. Because yeah, I know for me it's something that kind of puts me off. Like I say, this podcast I was listening to where they spoiled Horizon Zero Dawn for me, I stopped listening to the podcast because they talked about new games all the time, and I'm like, I don't want to not be told that you're going to spoil something and hear something else and then get disappointed again.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't want to listen to this anymore because it's too risky.
It's kind of like at least hanging out with one of my friends, which, by the way, I watch a lot of anime, and this friend watches a lot more anime than I do. And somehow, in one breath, she manages to spoil like 3 different series, like in one single breath, and it's like, hey, can you tune it down? I haven't watched either of those series. And she's like, but they're like super old series or very popular series. I don't care. I haven't watched them.
Yeah. Well, and I'm the same with like movies or TV shows or anything like that. Like, I love nothing more than watching a movie without knowing anything about it and finding out then and there whether I like it or not. And, sometimes that means you end up watching some crap movies, but that's kind of half the fun anyway. So,
Yep. That's part of the fun, I guess.
yeah. And
It's like playing Russian roulette.
pretty much, but not as consequential, maybe.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, but
you mentioned before, like something like Game Pass, like that's a really good reason to play something blind, I think, because yeah, if you get a game for free, there's really no downtime except your time. Or no downside, I should say, except spending your time on it. And with that in mind, there's one game that I did play, which was a free one on Steam, and I don't want to name it because I'm going to be very rude to it. But It's just a little indie game that someone made, and good on them for making it. But I was angry after playing it for about an hour and really felt like my time had been wasted, even though it was a free game. And it was the first time I've ever really been angry about playing a free game, because the mechanics were just so annoying and the platforming was annoying and it was just really, really bad. And it looked all right in a trailer. But yeah, I was actively annoyed that it had wasted my time to even play it, even though I didn't buy it. So that can happen on rare occasions. And maybe if I'd known more about it at the time, I wouldn't have bothered. So
Yeah. Going spoiler-free is like a double-edged sword. You either get the best game ever, you get total crap.
yeah, you're
And then
rolling
you
the
get
dice.
angry because you didn't know anything and you played crap.
But it is like some of my favorite gaming experiences have been games that I don't really know anything about and have discovered all about along the way, and kind of everything is just getting better and better until you get right to the end and you're like, wow, that was amazing.
So yeah, and one last question. How hard is to avoid spoilers for you? Like,
Just in general, like I find it quite easy because I'm not big on social media. Um, I know that's probably where I'd see most spoilers. Like I used to use Twitter like 5 years ago or something, but I stopped using it about 5 years ago because it's just a cesspool of crap. And I just, yeah, I don't really look at Facebook ever. I don't even have a TikTok account or anything like that. I don't look at, like I say, I don't watch videos of stuff that are for games that I haven't played or don't want to play. The closest I get is there's this YouTube channel called Game Ranks. I don't know if anyone's seen them, but they do like a top 10 every day of the week.
yeah.
And then, sometimes they're quite amusing. So I watch them every now and then. But I also check to see, depending on the top 10 list they're doing, like sometimes the top 10 list will be like top 10 biggest twists in games, which obviously sounds very spoilery.
Yeah.
But thankfully, they list the games that they're going to talk about in the comment in the description of the video. So I quickly look at that and go, okay, I don't want to hear about that one or that one or that one, and I just kind of skip them as I go. Which, I appreciate they've given me the option to do that. Otherwise, I wouldn't watch any of their videos. So I think being upfront about it is a good way to avoid it. But I don't know. How about you? How do you avoid spoilers yourself?
For some reason, it is very easy for me. And also it helps that for most of my life, I've been living under a rock, according to various sources, aka my friends, family, and boyfriend. So, for example, when they were talking about something about Final Fantasy VII on the, I think it was the last episode of the podcast. So
Yeah.
they told me about, like, they said, hey, can you not know, how can you not know about this? Like, and it seems like whatever, or like the big thing on the game. And I'm like, that doesn't ring a bell at all. I know nothing. So I
See, I
can
think I know what you're
remain
talking about, but yeah, I haven't played the game.
like yeah, that's the thing about it. Like for some reason, I've managed to dodge every single spoiler for every single older game that I'm yet to play. So whenever something happens, it's like, hey, this is a big surprise, and someone just bonks me over the head and said, hey, this is like common knowledge. How can you just not know it? And I don't know, it just doesn't reach my ears for some reason. And in the other end of the spectrum, like I play a lot of otome games. I'm on the otome community on Twitter, but they are very nice people. So most of the people, whenever they discuss something, they either pick a huge spoiler warning before it, or whenever they post CGs that are like the still images for the game that are like pretty, and you usually don't want to see them because they're like very intertwined with the story. They just
I know
mark them
exactly what you mean.
as mature content, so it will be blurred and they just put a spoiler warning.
See, that's an interesting one because, like, on Steam, how you can see your friends' activity.
Yeah.
And if they post screenshots and stuff, it'll come up there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I found out that you can actually turn that off because I got annoyed about people posting screenshots that I didn't want to see.
Ooh, that's
and so I went into
interesting.
the settings, and you can like say, no, don't show me screenshots, don't show me reviews, don't show me certain things that you don't want to see, or even trophies, that kind of stuff, because that can spoil things, like achievements. So yeah, screenshots are one of those things. I'm like, I don't want to see it because that'll spoil something for me.
Nice. It's nice that we have either the tools or like the community that avoids spoiling us.
Yeah, and I think, like you say, with the Otome community, like if you signpost something well enough that it is a spoiler, and hey, if you're not into that, don't read it. I think that's pretty much the bare minimum that everyone should be trying to, keep up. Just as a way
it's
to
like
not
basic human decency at this point.
Yeah, and see, talking about my sister again, just because I was thinking about it, playing It Takes Two, but she really likes certain TV shows and that kind of thing. Like, she's right into it and knows all the actors' names and knows when the next thing's coming out and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just like, it goes over my head. I don't pay that much attention. But so when a new season of something starts, if she can't watch it immediately, she'll literally not even go on the internet, because apparently people with TV shows, pretty much, yeah, because apparently people are terrible with TV shows, and as soon as the episode's out, they'll talk about everything in the episode publicly and not even spoiler tag it or anything. So she's just, totally disconnects until she's seen what she wants to see, and and then goes from there. So thankfully, I think it's more a common thing in gaming that we're used to spoiler tagging stuff, and
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I feel like, we can pretty much get away with it most of the time. And that's why I like things like you guys did on last season, where you do like spoiler casts and stuff, where it's right up front that, hey, we're going to talk about this game, we're going to talk about everything about it, and we're going to talk about all the spoilers and all the secrets and everything. So just don't listen if you don't want to.
Yeah, we should go back into those whenever we coincide on some games.
Yeah, absolutely.
So at the very least, that's everything I had to say about spoilers. Anything you want to add, Josh?
No, I just want to reiterate that, for the community who are listening to this, like, we try to be as spoiler-free as possible, and we'll tell you if there's anything that could be a spoiler. So I hope that, at the end of the day, you can trust us not to ruin your day, or do what like my experience, where I don't want to listen to this anymore. But please give us feedback and tell us if there's anything you want to add, or if you actually don't really care. That's interesting too. So yeah.
Why don't we roll along to guess the game where the aim of the game is to guess the game based on the community notes? Guys, I swear we are gonna come up with a decent name for this to make it more funny. But for the time being, I've chosen a game for Josh to pick out of his completed list. First of all, I'm gonna start with reading a completion note from the main story, one from Main Plus, and finally from the completion. And we'll probably sprinkle some more hints here and there to throw us up on, but I'll make it more interesting.
I'm not feeling very confident, so.
Okay, I picked some, like one that you'll probably, I have faith in you. You'll probably guess this one like very quick, or at the very least, like you'll get 2 points out of this one.
All right. Hit me.
So Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go with this one because the other ones are way too spoilery. Met 3 people. Amazing looking game.
One more time.
Met 3 people. Amazing looking game.
Met 3 people? That sounds like it should tell me something. Like you're trying to meet people. Met 3 people. I mean, for some reason I'm thinking of Babdi that we talked about the other week.
Of what?
Babdi? Babbdi?
No.
You know that weird game where there's people you meet in it? Yeah. Anyway.
That is not the one.
Met 3. Yeah, I'm struggling with that.
Actually, I'm gonna try to look for your times and notes and stuff like that because I lost them, and that might serve as a second clue for this one.
Yeah, just games where you meet people.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
big blank
gonna
time.
give you a clue, like a second clue for this tier. You don't have a main class for this. I mean, a main time for this, but it seems that it took you 6 hours and 43 minutes to beat it, like to complete it.
6 hours, okay. So it's either a smaller game or like a DLC or something, maybe. 6 hours is interesting as well because I don't think there's heaps that fall into that kind of range for me. Like most of them are either much shorter, like below 3 hours, or much longer.
And because you took like 3 times more than most to like before you said, hey, this is good enough for me.
Really? That's interesting. Because I'm usually quicker as well.
Yeah. I don't know if you did like some reruns or whatever, but let me...
Met 3 people. Yeah, I'm going to need that other comment, the next one, because
yeah, let me
I'm nowhere.
find the comment because I managed to lose it.
I feel like there's a remnants of something forming in my head, but I can't quite put my finger on it.
Okay, the second clue is collected most blank fragments.
Oh damn, fragments. It's not something like it's not like one of the Life is Strangers or something, is it? Or
No.
No. Okay. I'm still stuck on the Met 3 people thing. Like, so you can meet more, or you could meet less, perhaps, and still finish the game.
This is a game actually that we both have played.
And you collect something fragments. It could be... No, but that's not really meeting people, is it? Like, I was thinking maybe like something like Fez, where you collect fragments of your upgrades, but not so much. You do meet people, but it's not something you'd mention.
Maybe I should give you the word that is in the blank space because...
I mean, I don't feel like I'm being very smart right now, so I'll take it.
Okay. Collected most cloth fragments.
Fluff, did you say?
Cloth. Like piece of
Cloth
cloth.
fragments.
Yeah.
Ah. Cloth fragments. Not something like Kato?
No.
No? Okay. Oh man, that is ringing a bell. Cloth fragments. I feel like my brain has got to explode if I try and think any harder.
This is also a rare PS4 game for you. I mean...
PS4 game.
Yeah, you played it on PS4.
It's not bound, is it?
No.
No, okay. The cloth thing is, yeah. Cloth fragments. Where do you find cloth fragments? Oh, not, is it bloody Journey?
It is Journey.
As soon as it popped into my head, I'm like, oh, of course. And you do meet people, and that is a thing, yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to look for another clue to give you, but you got it.
No, PS4 helped there, because, yeah, that limits things quite a bit for me. Yeah, no, what a good game. Journey, loved it. Fantastic game. And I have played it a lot, so my time is probably reflective of that, because I ended up 100%ing it, I think, and if you find everything and find all the shrines and everything like that, you unlock a special white outfit that always has the longest scarf, so you can end up flying around and doing lots of weird stuff.
Yeah, that was like another clue that has like a hint to the white outfit, but I thought that was a bit too obvious given your playtime, so I decided against it.
Well, thank you very much.
Fun fact about this game is that when I played it on PS4, I didn't know the other being that was with you on some stages of the game was a player. I had zero idea. They were like there was another person behind that creature, but it made all the sense
I
in the
think I
world
wasn't.
after.
Yeah, I wasn't like 100% sure. I was like, I think this is another player, but I don't know. And until I'd played it heaps, and that's a game that I do replay a lot. Even now, I'll go back and play it because I can finish it in like a couple of hours, and I know the game inside out by now because I've played it so much. But just as an aside, while we're talking about Journey, because what a great game. One thing that I did do once when I was playing it, and I had my white outfit, and I met another player who had a white outfit as well. And one of the most fun things you can do in that game is try and communicate with each other and try and talk to another person through you basically push a button and you make like a chirpy sound.
Yeah. And that's when I realized.
But you can understand so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. To the point, like this other player and I, we both had because both of our outfits were, if you unlock the white outfit, you basically don't have to recharge your scarf. It just automatically recharges. So you can jump and fly and stuff for as long as you basically are able to. Or, as long as you want, you don't run out of juice. And so we ended up flying outside of the bounds of the map that we were on. And it took about half an hour, but we just kept, because if you chirp next to each other, you recharge each other as well at the same time.
Yeah.
So we're both flying through the sky, recharging each other's flight, and to the point we went over the top of one of the levels into like the out of bounds area. So, it looked mental. There was no textures, and it's just this big empty plane of game. And we're just flying for like half an hour, just for ages, until we came back down and basically skipped a couple of levels and ended up in like another couple of levels down the track because it's all connected on the map. And yeah, it was just so much fun because we were just messing about and managed to break the game significantly. So
and that's how everything and that's how real friendships begin. You break the game.
Yeah. Hey, we had a great time, and thankfully I recorded it, and I think I actually put it on my YouTube channel. But yeah, I'll try and find a link if anyone's interested. But it's just good times. So yeah, no, cool. I'm glad I eventually got that because man, I was struggling for a while there. Oh my! But that brings us to a draw then, because we're both on 2 points. We both had a main plus guess, which I think might be more common than not. So
let's see on the next episode.
Yeah, we'll have to, I don't know. I'll be interested to see if there's a point where we start trying to really make it hard, because I feel like it's going to always be hard no matter what.
Yeah.
But anyway, that'll pretty much do us for this episode, I reckon.
Yeah. So, thank you everyone for listening to this Two Gamers Rumble for a long time. We'll see you back. We'll see you again in the next episode. So, bye.
Catch you later, everybody.
And that's how real friendships begin. You break the game.